Welcome to a brand new episode of Health360. This week, we're shining light on an issue that's been hiding in plain sight, a health concern that's rarely talked about but could be affecting millions of people. That is the problem of developing problems using AI. As artificial intelligence becomes more embedded in daily life, a strange and emerging phenomenon is drawing attention. AI psychosis, where human minds struggle to distinguish between reality from digital reality. Also on the show this week, we will be telling you how those selling us junk food have done what they can really to get us hooked. The TikTok trend of fiber maxing and the Japanese interval walk. Ground reports, expert voices, all packed together in this edition of Health 360. I'm Sneha Mordani. Some experts say it's the dark side of an always-on, hyper-connected future. As artificial intelligence becomes more personal and immersive, there's growing concern about a rare but alarming phenomenon, AI psychosis. We take a closer look at what this is and why mental health professionals are sounding the alarm. Well, it may sound dystopian, perhaps even like some sort of a conspiracy theory, but increasingly the world is getting convinced about your chatbots playing games with your mind. A recent phenomenon termed ChatGPT-induced psychosis has been used to describe people being led down conspiracy theory rabbit holes or into worsened mental health episodes by feedback they receive from chatbots. AI psychosis refers to delusional thinking amplified by unchecked AI interactions. Chatbots' tendency to affirm user beliefs without ethical boundaries can distort reality for vulnerable individuals, as per Psychology Today 2025. Well, it's not a clinical diagnosis, but an emerging digital health concern. Here are two studies, both in preprint. NHS doctors in the UK have reported there were emerging evidence that AI may mirror, validate or amplify delusional or grandiose content, particularly in users already vulnerable to psychosis, due in part to the models designed to maximize engagement and affirmation. A Stanford-led study published as a preprint in April found large language models make dangerous or inappropriate statements to people experiencing delusionals, suicidal ideation, hallucination or OCD, and that they were designed to be compliant and sycophantic. Now, Sam Altman, founder OpenAI, himself says he feels uneasy on how people are using ChatGPT for life decisions. He said OpenAI has been closely tracking how people develop attachments to their AI models and their reactions when older versions are removed. He warned against self-destructive use of technology, including AI, especially by users who are mentally fragile or prone to delusion. Altman, in a post on Twitter, has said, and I quote him, "People have used technology, including AI, in self-destructive ways. If a user is in a mentally fragile state and prone to delusion, we do not want the AI to reinforce that. Most users can keep a clear line between reality and fiction or role play, but a small percentage cannot. We value user freedom as a core principle, but we also feel responsible in how we introduce new technology with new risks." TikToker Kendra Hilty's viral confession detailing her romantic obsession with her psychiatrist in AI-fueled validation has ignited urgent discussions about AI psychosis and digital mental health risks.
Rudra really knows me. I can share anything with Rudra. He's my best friend. Rudra really knows he's my best friend.
Currently, no formal medical guidelines exist for preventing or treating AI-associated psychosis. The WHO, the World Health Organization, has not yet classified it, and peer-reviewed research is scarce. But clinicians say the lack of safeguards in AI design is actually part of the problem. Well, it's being called a simple science-backed way to boost heart health, burn fat, and even slow aging. And it takes 20 minutes a day. A Japanese fitness technique known as interval walking is gaining global attention. I explore in this report. The Japanese seem to have done two things. One is that they made us believe that 10,000 steps is gospel truth. The second is that very recently they introduced interval walking to us. Well, first things first. Where did this whole idea of 10,000 steps a day being ideal really emerge from? We all seem to think that 10,000 steps a day is actually ideal. But where did this idea actually emerge from? When Japan was preparing to host the 1964 Tokyo Olympics, there was an increased focus on fitness in the general Japanese population. An awareness had begun to spread about the fact that regular exercise was a good way to fight against lifestyle diseases such as hypertension, diabetes, and strokes. It was also the best way to fight obesity, which was fast becoming an epidemic. The simplest exercise was walking. Anyone could do it. No special equipment was needed, and neither was any coaching or training. The modern pedometer was introduced to the Japanese marketplace at roughly the same time. It was a simple gadget that could be worn around the waist and could calculate the number of steps walked. Needless to say, the gadget sold quickly as people began keeping track of just how many steps they were walking every single day. Manpoke, which literally translates to 10,000 steps in the Japanese language, became the rallying slogan for these dedicated walkers. Well, it turns out that not 10,000, actually just about 7,000 steps a day or so is actually ideal. Well, we aren't saying it. It's a study that has been published in the journal Lancet that talks about how 7,000 is doable and actually ideal. So I mentioned that the Japanese have done something else as well. They popularized something that is known as the Japanese interval walk. So what is it really? The new fitness trend from Japan has been making waves online. Japanese walking. It promises solid health benefits, demands little gear or time, and offers a fresh way to add variety to your training. Is it something that runners should consider? Here's what you need to know. The Japanese interval walking technique involves alternating between 3 minutes of brisk walk and 3 minutes of slower walking, repeated for at least 30 minutes, 4 times a week. The brisk intervals should be fast enough to make holding a conversation difficult, while the slower intervals allow the body to recover. Interval training or alternating between short bursts of high-intensity exercise followed by lower-intensity rest and recovery. You can actually apply to all kinds of fitness regimens, including walking, biking, running, and also strength training. You've heard of protein shakes, low-carb diets, and even intermittent fasting, but now a new health trend is picking up steam online. Fiber maxing. Many say it's a game changer for gut health, weight management, and overall wellness. Critics call it overhyped. So what's the science and what's just the internet noise?
A humble nutrient is taking center stage, fiber. And online it has a name, fiber maxing.
Why fiber is so important and how much fiber really?
Yes, fiber is extremely crucial because that's how our food processes through our body, right? So
Right.
fiber helps us absorb the blood sugar levels slower. There are no maxes and peaks and lows. So soluble fiber helps us do that. But like everything, everything becomes a trend, and then everything becomes just from very little to from almost nothing to then maximizing it and therefore fiber maxing. But in excess, nothing is good for us.
Fiber maxing is the practice of consuming high levels of dietary fiber, often above the daily recommended amount, with the goal of improving digestion, regulating blood sugar, and even boosting mental clarity.
You know, Pooja, I want to know from you, how much fiber does one really need on a daily basis?
So functional medicine recommends anywhere between 35 to 45 grams of fiber, men needing a little bit more than women. Fiber is extremely crucial because carbs can otherwise spike your sugar levels, but fiber is the one that adds the clothes and helps us
Okay.
slow down these sugar spikes. So, and our Indian thali is extremely balanced on that front.
Fiber is essential for gut health, and most of us don't get enough. But ramping up too quickly can cause gas, bloating, and discomfort. It needs to be gradual.
There's also this thing about eating so much fiber so quickly. You know, this intake is so quick that it creates problems. Also, I understand that fiber also requires, you know, fair amount of hydration. I mean, if your intake has gone up, and so your hydration also should be increasing.
Now, most people are trying to increase the fiber without focusing on the hydration aspect. So, if
Right.
you're going to increase the insoluble fiber without water, the stools are only going to become harder and the process of constipation becomes more common. Also, from going from an ultra processed diet with having only 5 or 10 grams of fiber a day, if you jump it to 30 and 40 grams of fiber, your body is unable to come to homeostasis with it and work with you. So therefore, it
Right.
always has to be a gradual increase of fiber intake with adequate hydration, with adequate movement.
Fiber maxing may be trending now, but dietitians say fiber has always been a cornerstone of good health. The key? Balance, hydration, and patience.
Ever wonder why it's so hard to stop at just one chip? Or why fast food seems to hit the spot every time? It's not really by accident. Junk food has been carefully engineered over decades to be more appealing, even addictive. From flavor chemistry to flashy packaging, it's all designed to keep you coming back for more.
Crunchy, salty, sweet, and irresistible. Junk food has become a multi-billion-dollar industry by doing one thing very well: making food almost impossible to put down.
These products are actually designed keeping that bliss point in your brain and mind. The perfect amount of salt, sugar, fats, all of it put together, taste, added taste, it just makes you wanting more and more. Remember that, even if you're not hungry, and I'm going to guarantee you this, you'll end up eating this pack of chips in its totality. It seems to be triggering the pleasure in the brain. You know, how does that really work? This excess salt and sugar in these foods, and what happens in your brain then?
If you believe, there is a professional category known as craveability experts that the companies will hire that come up with this exact perfect combination of sugar, fat, and salt that helps you hit the dopamine centers in your brain, and then you go into this pleasure loop where you're not eating the food because you're hungry and your body wants it, but you're just giving yourself on a reward based system because your mind is saying one more chip, one more of it.
From lab to the label, every crunch, everything that is associated or goes into making this piece of so-called food is actually designed to get you hooked. Now, from the lab to the label, all of these products are completely addictive. And make no mistake, they're engineered to make it completely addictive. What about the colors of the packet? You know, they're also made extremely attractive. Talk to us about how that plays around with the mind.
So we first perceive hunger through our eyes. It has to be to that point where it provides the pleasure. It's not just too much and it's not too dull, so that our scrolling stops and our mind is tempted to pick that up. Strategic colors, strategic placing of foods in supermarket or checkout aisles, tricks that companies play with us so that their sales are higher, but sadly our health is going lower on the graph.
Experts say it's not about willpower, it's about biology. These foods override the body's natural signals of fullness, making it easy to overheat.
Well, these products are actually designed like that. Take an example of these very, very delicious cheese puffs. What has the person who's designed this thought? Essentially, this cheese puff doesn't require much effort to eat. Essentially, a bite or two of it and it vanishes in your mouth. Let me just try it out and give you an example of how this really works. It's actually easier to eat, and that's also something that makes it completely irresistible. Gone completely.
Junk food addiction isn't officially recognized, but researchers say its effects on the brain and body are very real, and they can be just as hard to break as other habits.
You're selling, Fruit Loops in the name of cereal, which is just sugar and color, nothing else. Children are targeted, cartoon characters are placed on the box.
Because they have access to our children today through so much accessibility. So whether it is advertisements put primarily right outside schools or on the path towards a school. I have heard this so very often that my child doesn't want to eat a full breakfast but is okay to eat cereal, and there is no time in the morning, so cereal is the preferred choice. At least वो चुप करके खा लेता है. So we are giving into time, convenience, and what our children want, and that's exactly what companies are doing. It's basically giving them a rough start to the day.
And with constant marketing aimed at kids and teens, the next generation is being hooked young, long before they can make informed choices.
Imagine a young Indian with a spinal disorder normally seen in seniors. Well, that is not too far-fetched, unfortunately. Brittle bones, osteopenia, usually seen amongst older Indians, is now being seen in the younger population. So what's really going on here? Why are younger Indians getting brittle bones? We explore.
A young person with bone loss problems. Surprised? Don't be. It is becoming extremely common nowadays to see younger Indians develop problems seen in aging populations.
Doctor, what is happening? Why is that younger people are suddenly developing osteopenia? Are you also seeing cases where younger people are coming to you with these bone problems?
In fact, in my practice, routine practice, I have seen a significant shift. 15 years back, I used to see majorly the patients who used to come to me with this problem are beyond 50 years of age. And now routinely I'm seeing patients who are coming in their 20s, 30s and even 15-year-olds. You will ask me why? So one major important thing over there is a diet. Because these days, this generation has a lot of more carbonated drinks, sodas, fizzy drinks. The balanced diet doesn't exist.
Okay.
We are not eating healthy food.
So what would be the classic symptoms of this? Osteoporosis and osteopenia.
One thing is very funny, that this is a silent disease. So it will start impacting you, it will impact you, and overall you won't understand. So overall you start to develop vague symptoms like chronic backache. They will have some wrist pain. They will have some dull feeling overall in the body. Yeah. They won't be able to perform like how they were, and they would think this is a new normal. But in fact, it is not. It is silently the bones being killed.
Doctors say inadequate nutrition and lack of physical activity is a core concern area.
And what is this connection between food and bone health?
Literature has already established that if you are having carbonated drinks and sodas, that is a known risk factors for increasing the bone washout. India it is one of the important areas wherein we have a good sunlight. But if ever you see, the current trend is that people want to run away from the sunlight.
Doctor, I don't think we can't stress enough on the importance of exercise and exercise at an early stage for this, because we as a country are not exercising as much as we should, isn't it, including lifting weights?
Yes. So I agree, because lifestyle change is very much important over here, which starts from diet. Have a well-balanced diet, include things like ragi, green leafy vegetables, that will help you. Have some amount of sunlight, 20 minutes of sunlight is going to be good. But the major important thing is some exercise. So whenever there is an effect of pulling on the bones, the bones become stronger. And how do you pull the bones? It cannot be manual. So it can be by running, jogging, lifting weights. So you keep on pulling the muscles over the bones, and there is an effect wherein the bones become stronger and stronger.
Right. So I also want to ask you, why is that women are developing these problems in India, and why are they so prone?
It is established that women have naturally lesser bone density as compared to men. That is something that is given by God. But apart from that, hormonal cycle, the menstrual cycle that females have, once the menstrual cycle stops, that is counterproductive, because that is when the washout happens, because these hormones have a very critical role in safeguarding the bones over there. Apart from this, when we talk about younger girls, there are so many societies still who don't let the girls play. So over there, playing, jumping around, walking around is important. Breastfeeding and pregnant women, they need good amount of calcium in their diet. If they are not replenishing their stores, they start developing deficiencies.
What kind of tests should one be doing? Can one preempt कि ये मुझे हो सकता है and do certain tests so that, as a preventive measure, so to speak?
So one important thing over there is a thing called BMD, wherein the BMD test is done and they try to diagnose you with osteoporosis and osteopenia, but that is not the test to be done. That you can just consider as a screening, not as a definitive diagnostic test. The major gold standard diagnostic test is DEXA, dual energy X-ray absorptiometry. You do it from 3 sides. One is classically lumbar spine, one-sided hip, and the other-sided wrist. This will give you an idea overall about the status of the body, and you can make the diagnosis and start the treatment according to that. Apart from that, FRAX score is very much important, because the people who have been diagnosed with osteopenia and osteoporosis, we have a fancy scoring system that we do. With that, we predict whether you're going to get fractures. So according to that, we can decide what exactly should be the treatment that should be given.
That who are the people who should be going for these tests? What are the risk factors in individuals who should be opting for these tests?
So, it's not like everyone should be going the test. Ideally, there are some risk factors for osteoporosis. So what are they? Women, if they are incurring heavy bleeding during their regular menstrual cycle. Women after menopause. If you are having a long-standing history of thyroid, that is hypothyroid. If you are having a long-standing history of diabetes, so these are the known risk factors. Apart from this, if men or women have any hormonal issues, long-standing or even short-standing, so bones get impacted, get the test done. And in case of males beyond the age of 70, it is important that you start doing the test every once in 2 years.
Well, that report and much more brings us to the end of this edition of Health 360. You can find this and much more up on our website, that's indiatoday.in. All our social media handles, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, which is X, and Facebook carry our reports. Our hashtag is Health360, Health360 Plus. Do not forget to like, subscribe and share. Thank you so much for watching. Take very good care of yourself. Bye for now.